the pain like.
Hey guys, dearyoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. If you saw my community tab post a few days ago, then you'll know that I was itching to talk about this topic. And now I've finally mustered up the strength to do so. We are going to be discussing the story of RIIZE member Seunghan, from his hiatus to how he was vilified by their fan base, and what this eventually led to. Because a lot has happened recently, and very importantly, I wanted to discuss what this entire situation has taught us about K-pop fan entitlement. So let's jump right into it, because there's a lot for us to cover in this video. First of all, let's introduce Seunghan and the original reason for his hiatus for those who may not have been following this story from the beginning. Hong Seunghan, known by his stage name Seunghan, was a member of SM Entertainment boy group RIIZE. The group debuted with 7 members in September 2023, and Seunghan was loved by fans for his vocal abilities, dance abilities, and visuals. However, Seunghan's active time with the group was rather short-lived. Before the group's debut single Get a Guitar was released in September 2023, a month prior in August, images began to circulate online, showing Seunghan's life before he was a member of RIIZE. One photo seemingly showed him in bed with somebody people speculated was a former girlfriend, just cuddling. Others showed him kissing her, and another photo emerged of him smoking a cigarette. It was believed those photos were leaked by an acquaintance of his. Fans have later discovered it was more likely a say-sang or stalker fan who leaked these images, but who knows. Still, before the group's debut in September, Seunghan took to the group's Instagram at the end of August to apologise to fans who are supporting RIIZE, as he had caused damage to the group through personal matters, all out of his carelessness. Seunghan confirmed that at the time he hadn't addressed any of these controversies sooner because he was scared, and he was only 19 years old at the time, so I completely understand why he would have been. Seunghan ended his statement by confirming he's reflected a lot and vows to put the team first by being more careful on and off stage in future. However, things didn't just end there. A few months later, an old Instagram live between Seunghan and TXT member Wonbin was also leaked. There have been multiple mistranslations and confusions surrounding this live, but it seemingly showed Seunghan bad-mouthing somebody while Wonbin was discussing LE SSERAFIM's Unchae, who was emceeing at a music show that TXT appeared on. Wonbin tells Seunghan that he has something to show him in the live and then gestures to a middle finger but using his toes, a sentence I never thought I'd say, but here we are. I think at the time this live only had like 4 viewers because it was on private. Therefore, this one more likely had to have been leaked by an acquaintance of theirs, which makes this even worse. After this was leaked, the labels were able to clear up any confusion and confirm the pair were not bad-mouthing Unchae at all, but unfortunately, SM Entertainment clearly already felt like enough damage had been done to Seunghan and RIIZE's image. On the 22nd of November 2023, SM confirmed that the RIIZE member Seunghan would be going on hiatus to reflect on the disappointment he has caused fans and the group, with issues surrounding his personal life. I think it is interesting to note here that SM Entertainment did actually comment on the fact that some of the content leaked about Seunghan had been edited to make it look a lot worse than it was, and was a severe attempt at defamation. And it was. It really did feel like netizens had it out for Seunghan ever since before he debuted, and these leaks were all a major breach of his privacy. But the decision for him to go on hiatus was still going ahead. On the same day, Seunghan shared a handwritten letter on Weverse to explain how he was deeply reflecting on his careless actions from the past, apologising to both the group members and the group's fandom, RIIZE. During Seunghan's hiatus, RIIZE continued business as usual due to them only being rookies in the industry. In this time, they released multiple comebacks and garnered quite a large audience, but many RIIZE listeners still considered the group 7 members and were eagerly awaiting Seunghan's return, with thousands even signing petitions for his return and constantly asking SM Entertainment to let him resume activities with the group. So let's fast forward to the present day, October 2024, where everything kind of went a bit crazy within the span of just a few days. On the 10th of October, an article was wrongly released that confirmed Seunghan would be leaving RIIZE after 10, nearly 11 months hiatus. I didn't see when this article went live because it was the middle of night for me, so I'm not too sure who originally published it. By the time I woke up, it was deleted not long after and replaced by the news that Seunghan would finally be returning to RIIZE after his hiatus. The statement confirmed that Seunghan's return was the result of multiple discussions that spanned over months between Seunghan, the label, and the other RIIZE members. Ultimately, they had come to a mutual agreement that RIIZE's next chapter would be even more meaningful if the 7 members were together. As you can imagine, this news was met with mixed reactions, and I think the reactions of fans were completely opposite ends of the spectrum. There are lots of fans, perhaps internationally, celebrating Seunghan's return because it had been long awaited, and the fact that this was something all 7 of the members wanted made it even more special. They had waited for him and wanted him back with them. My Twitter timeline was full of people celebrating, including K-pop fans who weren't necessarily stans of RIIZE, because this was such a great and exciting announcement. As we all know, there have been many times in the past where other idols have been put on indefinite hiatus and never returned to their groups, so a lot of us were unfortunately expecting the worst. To have the complete opposite happen was such a nice change compared to what we were all used to. However, you know what I'm going to say next. There was, of course, the total opposite end of this spectrum of fans who, let's just say, were much less than pleased. I've spoken so many times in the past on this channel about the reactions of Korean netizens when they hear that an idol has been in a relationship or are getting into one, and they always express their discontent in the most over-the-top ways. But the response to Seunghan's return to the group was like nothing I have ever seen before in all my years as a K-pop fan. A lot of us might have seen those images circling around social media, but if not, let me just draw these to your attention. This image shows hundreds, if not thousands, of funeral flowers that angry fans sent to the SM Entertainment building to express how upset they were that Seunghan was returning to the group, with ribbons stating words like RIIZE is 6, meaning 6 members. And if sending flowers literally meant for mourning the past wasn't bad enough, the backlash didn't stop there. There are multiple accounts on social media which show netizens in countries such as Korea, Japan, and China sending serious threats to Seunghan, putting his safety in danger, if you get what I mean. I can't quite explain how horrible these were to read, and that people could have had such harsh feelings towards a recently turned 21-year-old who just wanted to continue his career. People wanted him to reflect on his mistakes, and he did that for almost a year even, but it clearly wasn't enough for these people. Despite all the backlash, the couple of days that followed the announcement of Seunghan's return was seemingly still quite optimistic, with a lot of fans hoping the hate train would soon blow over. During this time, we got to see and even hear of how happy the other RIIZE members were for having Seunghan be making his return. On the 12th of October, RIIZE member Wonbin shared a statement regarding Seunghan's return to the group, which I believe may be the first time any of the members have been able to explicitly mention him since his hiatus started. Wonbin's statement explains how the members are of course worried about what their fandom RIIZE are thinking now, but understand it may be even more distressing for them to not hear from the members at all. Wonbin confirms that the members have been talking a lot with Seunghan and the company regarding his return to the group, and this wasn't a hasty or quick decision. They thought and thought about it for months. He apologized that they still wouldn't be able to make all fans happy with this decision, but still asked if fans could continue to look on them with love and support. In other words, fans interpreted this statement as the group's acknowledgement that they are aware that some parts of their fan base were extremely unhappy with Seunghan's return, but this is something that all of the members wanted, and that's why they discussed it for months to make sure it was the right decision for all of them. On the next day, 13th of October, a pre-recorded video was released by Super Pop Japan, showing the other 6 RIIZE members, aside from Seunghan, sharing news that they'll be performing at this event on the 9th of November, which will seemingly be after Seunghan has made his return to the group, so all 7 of them will finally get to appear on stage together again. During this video, you can see fellow RIIZE member Sohee smiling so much because he can barely contain his excitement. It's important for us to note here just how close Seunghan and Sohee are. They even had matching bios the entire time that Seunghan was on hiatus, so it's no wonder that Sohee was so excited for Seunghan to be back with the group. Unfortunately, the happiness and excitement of the members at Seunghan's return was short-lived, and I'm afraid we all know where this is going. Aside from just the funeral wreaths being sent to SM's building, shareholders began to complain about the drop in the price of their shares, meaning their profits were in jeopardy. Netizens were boycotting purchasing any further RIIZE merchandise or albums and crashing the Kwanja server with demands demands that the group return to 6 members. The 6 members currently active were scheduled to perform at Music Bank in Madrid on the 12th of October 2024, and that they did as planned. Unfortunately, what none of the members knew at the time was back home in Korea, Seunghan had made the decision to withdraw from RIIZE entirely and would no longer be returning to the group at all. On the 13th of October, Wizard Production, which is the SM Entertainment division who manages RIIZE, even confirmed in their statement announcing the news that Seunghan's decision to no longer continue with RIIZE was due to the discontent expressed by fans at his return, saying they realized their decision has actually hurt fans more and caused them greater confusion. Seunghan confirmed this in a Weverse letter post confirming that his decision not to return to RIIZE was more for the greater good of the members and the fans, to not cause any more anguish to them, because he does not want to hurt them any more than he already has. While this is happening, we also begin to see footage of RIIZE returning from their trip to Madrid, seemingly having learned of the news that Seunghan would no longer be rejoining them, and their upset is very clear to see, even though they are trying their best to hide behind hats and masks. Member Sohee appears to be upset or crying, and wonbin is being guided through the airport looking visibly upset and frustrated. And this sort of demeanour has yet to change, with more footage of the group at a separate airport trip, I think, in the last day or so, showing the members still trying to cover themselves and member Seungchan trying to dodge reporters wherever possible. So where are we now? Well, this story is still very much unfolding. Upon hearing of the news of Seunghan's removal from RIIZE and the fact that this all seemed to have unfolded while the rest of the group were thousands of miles away performing at an event, a lot of fans were outraged by the way this whole situation had been handled. Some fans felt as though SM Entertainment had specifically waited until the other members, aka Seunghan's support system, were unable to provide their support because they were either flying or busy performing on the other side of the world, and then the label perhaps used this as their opportunity to pull Seunghan in to discuss his future with the group. The fact that both the label and the members confirmed it had taken months to decide he would be returning to the group, therefore meant it made zero sense that the label were now so easily going to backtrack on this within the space of days, even hours, with just only talking to Seunghan and not the rest of the group, something they had bragged about previously. How does it make sense to take 10 months to confirm somebody's return, but their removal can happen within a matter of hours, just because some people seem to be unhappy with your choice? Fans were also not happy with the label's choice to say that Seunghan's departure from the group was his decision. While this may very well have been the case, this doesn't address the fact that he clearly felt like he had no choice but to do this for the sake of the group and their fans, because days prior to this he clearly wanted to return to the group, and had he not wanted to return, then this idea would never have been suggested in the first place and he'd have left months ago. So the fact that the label were now saying this was all Seunghan's choice made fans feel as though they were indirectly being told they have no right to be upset about this because it was Seunghan's decision, not the label's, and therefore they need to support and respect his choice and not throw any hate at the label, because he did what was best for him, and fans should accept this. But fans know the story goes much deeper than that surface level. So global fans have been doing everything they can to make their voices heard, to show SM Entertainment that RIIZE do not just have local fans in Korea, but an audience worldwide who want Seunghan to be reunited with the group, in the same way that the members do. Fans have been organising a mass boycott of RIIZE. Thousands have unfollowed their social media accounts, with the group now seeing hundreds of thousands of followers drop across their Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Fans have been avoiding streaming their music on official platforms and deleting their paid Weverse subscriptions, cancelling any orders they'd placed for albums since his return, anything that directly puts money into the pockets of SM Entertainment. Just from looking at SM Entertainment's stock market price, you can see how things have been kind of all over the place for the past week, dropping and climbing again continuously. The most recent update I have regarding the fan boycott at the time of me speaking is that Naver, one of the biggest outlets in Korea for news, appears to have deleted their article regarding Seunghan's departure from RIIZE. An article isn't just magically deleted without reason. This likely could have been at the request from somebody to do this. We of course just don't know who. This has given fans some hope that their voices are being heard. There will of course be more layers to this than any of us know, so fans have been encouraging one another to carry on with their boycott as they were previously doing and do not take one positive win as final. So we've spoken a lot in detail about what has happened with Seunghan and netizens' reactions, but there was one reason I wanted to speak about this, aside from just raising awareness and doing my bit for the fandom to help get Seunghan's story out there. What has this entire entire situation taught us. Buckle up, guys. Strap yourself in. Like I already said, I've spoken so many times on this channel about the entitlement of fans, whether this be in regards to trying to control an idol's personal life, trying to control how they appear, or how they literally act as people. The entitlement of K-pop fans is something which needs to be studied, because it is honestly comparable to nothing I've ever known before. The way in which fans are insistent upon idols basically being shells of people who have no private or personal lives whatsoever outside of singing and dancing on stage is insanely harmful. And time again, fans prove that they are simply seeing K-pop idols who they claim to love and support as simply nothing more than puppets for them to play with. But I think this entire situation just brings to light how scary the entitlement of fans can actually be. I know a lot of us are very aware of saengs and the crazy behaviours that idols have had to deal with in the past, such as them appearing at their hotel rooms, stealing their flight information to follow them overseas, calling their phones constantly. But these are just physical threats that we are all aware of, and it is up to the artists' companies to protect them from. Something much more sinister that the labels are failing to protect their artists from is the mental torment that these netizens are so easily willing to put an artist through. This past week has taught us that K-pop fans will literally stop at nothing to emotionally manipulate an idol to the point where they feel the only option left for them is to give up and sacrifice themselves and their career for those around them. I can't express how manipulative it is to tell one 21-year-old individual that he is responsible for the happiness and well-being of thousands of upset fans, and that him having a girlfriend a couple of years ago has caused so much outrage, when in reality, the only reason this situation has escalated to the scale in which it did is because of the label. When all of those images began to leak of Seunghan's personal life, that was a clear breach of his privacy and an attempt at defamation, something which, like we said, SM was fully aware of. The fact that so many fingers were getting pointed at one individual made it extremely clear that they were not going to stop until his future had been sacrificed. It was a witch hunt. But at this point, it was SM Entertainment's responsibility to put a stop to that, in the same way they would have had to take legal action if somebody had broken into his house or followed him to multiple places. Just because they hadn't posed a physical threat to him yet does not mean that their behaviours were any less serious or harmful and could be excused. Because look where we are now. They might have played the long game by tricking him into thinking his hiatus would be getting him forgiven, but they were never going to give up until they got what they wanted, him removed from RIIZE and his career to end. They haven't physically hurt him, but the mental anguish he has gone through over this past year and will be currently experiencing is nothing like any of us can imagine. I don't want any of this to get misconstrued and that I'm implying all Korean netizens act this way. This of course is not the case, and there have been some Korean fans cutting the offensive ribbons on the flowers sent to SM or providing supportive words for Seunghan on his fan project at the subway station and across social media. But unfortunately, the voices of these supportive fans are always overshadowed by that of the unsupportive, the angry who are shouting louder. And the fact that fans have recently shown us that they will stop at no lengths to ensure that they get what they want is extremely scary and should be taken more seriously. But what worries me the most is the dangerous precedent that SM Entertainment has now set for future controversies. The fact that one of the biggest labels in the industry listened to the outcries of one specific audience rather than defending their artists against them makes it clear as day to any other fandoms considering doing this in the future that not only can they and get away with it, they are likely to get the outcome they want, because the label is so weak in its response. The label has shown everybody that they would rather protect the integrity of a couple of shareholders' money and local fans who buy albums, rather than a global audience who don't understand what all the outrage was about in the first place, and more importantly, the artists themselves in question, whose well-being is always getting sacrificed to keep a selfish audience happy. And I don't need to say it, but we are all well and truly aware that this label is not a first-time offender in this sort of incident, where there has been clear evidence that the label has not protected their artists' mental well-being to anywhere near the level that they could have. It actually makes me really sad that in the beginning, fans were surprised by the news of Seunghan's return, because we have been so conditioned into always expecting the worst from K-pop companies. So this positive news kind of threw us off and provided us with some optimism that, hey, maybe there will one day come a time where idols can have a personal life outside of work and labels will support them through the backlash in response until people get over it. But the fact that SM went back on their word so quickly just yet again shows fans why we can never trust that a label will be doing what's best for the artist, or that the industry will ever change. And it's upsetting when you're putting love, money and energy into supporting something which you do not agree with the principles of. It kind of creates a moral conflict that I know a lot of fans struggle to navigate. I know I do, for instance, where I have this internal conflict all the time in which I struggle to wrap my head around separating between the art that I love and the practices behind it that are going on every single day that I could just never support. I want to wrap this video up here because I could go on all day, but I think I put my main point across, which is what was most important to me. So, conclusion time. Like we mentioned, this story is still very much unfolding, and fans are doing everything in their power to try and get the label to listen to the fact that they still want Seunghan as a member of the group. And I touched upon it briefly, but the whole point of me making this video is to support the campaign by fans in any way in which I can, because I completely understand and agree that fans are doing the right thing now. If fans expressing their upset is what got the label to remove Seunghan from the group in the first place, then the other side of the fandom are now well within their rights to express their discontent too, as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, the ways in which they are doing so is nowhere near as harmful to an individual's well-being as that of anti-fans' protests were to Seunghan. So as far as I'm aware, go ahead. I know I don't have a super large audience, but the audience I do have is literally all K-pop fans. So if one person is seeing this video who didn't understand the extent of this situation and is maybe a casual listener, now offers their support to fans by maybe just not streaming that song or unfollowing their Instagram, then hopefully I helped in some way. But the pessimist in me does unfortunately worry that this decision from SM would now be final. SM Entertainment could go back and forth on their word for months if they wanted to, but the company will now be worrying about causing any further damage to the reputation of the group, and more importantly for them, they will not want to upset shareholders anymore. In an ideal world, the label would be prioritizing the needs and wants of their employees, who clearly want the group to proceed as a seven-piece. Unfortunately, this is not the world we are currently living in. So the last thing I wanted to say in this video is to both the fans trying to support the group through this awful time, and of course, Seunghan and the other members of the group. I am so sorry that this is something that you're currently going through. Please continue to fight for what you think is right, but remember to also give yourself the time and space to heal where you need to. Some of the things OT6 fans have been saying to Seunghan and even the other members, where they have criticised Wonbin for expressing his support, have been brutal. And unfortunately, this whole situation, like many others in the past, have proven that the mental well-being of others is not the main concern of the institutions involved. So all we can really do is protect ourselves and those around us where we can. Okay guys, and that was it for today's video. Phew, it actually feels really good to get all of that off my chest. I couldn't just not say anything when this was an issue I was already so passionate about, and another example was literally unfolding right in front of my eyes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, or maybe if it taught you something, that would be great. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, and I am definitely interested to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button to be the first to hear whenever I upload, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!